The movie starts with General Hummel, who is at the grave of his wife on a rainy day. He confesses to her that he had tried everything, but without any success, so he is compelled to his next move. He leaves his Medal of Honor on her grave, where he said a final farewell to her. In a following scene, he is at the entrance gate of US military base. Hummel and his soldiers, with stunning skills, neutralize the staff at the base, and they take 15 missiles on which one is written VX. At the FBI facility in Washington, we are introduced to Stanley Goodspeed, a chemical warfare expert, and his colleague Isherwood. They are examining a cargo that got into US at JFK Airport Customs when a dog sniffed out something in it. Isherwood accidentally activated the device inside of the baby doll. What the beep? Luckily, Stanley immediately takes initiative, stating that the device inside is a combination of poison gas and C4. While Isherwood is panicking, Stanley is ice cold and defuses the bomb before time expires. Later at home, Stanley is relaxing with his guitar when a girlfriend Carla arrives. Despite his bad mood, she brings the good news. She is pregnant, which he acknowledges with reserve. Considering that he had just prevented a terrorist attack, he asks her in what kind of the world they are bringing the child in. Carla is not having any of that and went straight to proposing him to marry her. Without an answer, we are moved to the Rock, home of Alcatraz, where we bear witness to a tourist group on a tour. General Hummel and his men are in a group as well, mixed with civilians. Hummel politely asks the kids to leave a tour and get on the boat that they have been arrived with. Ranger Bob, a tour guide, invited everybody to get into cells to experience what convicts have experienced while the prison was running on. At that moment, he and everybody else are captured by Hummel's people, and sadly the tour that he has enjoyed a lot has finished, converting them all into hostages. Another group of soldiers arrive at the Rock with the choppers carrying missiles that they have been previously stolen. After establishing a command center and securing a perimeter, General Hummel introduced them to the nature of the future happening. They will be branded as traitors. The gravest crime, which is punishable by death, automatically meaning that after this operation they will be never able to put their foot on US soil, and they will be paid $1 million for service rendered. General Hummel contacts Pentagon to present his demands. At first, he named every single black operation which he has commanded. 83 Marines have died in those actions, and he demands $100 million, which will be distributed between the families and soldiers that they are involved in the current operation, extracting that money from US government. He gave them 40 hours to complete the transaction, or he will fire those missiles with VS gas on San Francisco. After the introduction of situation, FBI Director Womack presents the action plan to Pentagon. In that task force, the White House Chief of the Staff is impressed with General Hummel's career and his achievements, his endless sacrifice for US in active duty in Marines, naming him a hero. The crew at the Pentagon is surprised by Hummel's demand and how well he has covered all bases. What the beep? What did you expect? He is US Marine. Hence, they move on assembling the task force to send it to the Rock, where Stanley Goodspeed is part of that. He just doesn't know it yet. I mean, the guy is getting married, it's not like he has bigger fears. Somewhere else, a romantic dinner is interrupted by a phone call from FBI, and Carla went crazy because Stanley needs to talk with her about new condition, instead going to San Francisco. He calmed her down by promising that he will marry her and that she can come with him to San Francisco because probably he will be part of training exercise, which is no big deal. You wish, Stanley, you wish. Besides the best operatives that they will be sent to Alcatraz and Stanley as a chemical expert, they need one more person, the most important one. person that got them in, because the blueprints are useless. Alcatraz is being ripped up and rebuilt a couple of times, and everything has changed. That person should show the way from shore into the prison itself, through the maze of tunnels beneath the prison. When they got inside, operatives will neutralize mercenaries, and Stanley will disarm the missiles. There is only one person who had escaped from Alcatraz. The only question is whether he will accept to help them in this situation, considering the fact that he has been imprisoned for 30 years without trial. Without trial. What the beep? The guy who put him there is no more and no less current FBI Director Womack. Before they propose a deal to a prisoner, Paxton, one of the Womack's men, asked who is the prisoner and why he couldn't find any file about him in any bay that he has access to. The answer was stunning. The prisoner is former SAS, highly trained operative, an escaped artist who has been incarcerated in Alcatraz in 1962 and fled in 1963, the only one that succeeded to pull that move in the history, and his name is John Mason. Paxton offers Mason a jail-free card in exchange to help them to get inside of the rock to rescue hostages. Mason is surprised that Alcatraz is turned into tourist attraction and Paxton's story, but still refuses to help them. Womack sent Stanley inside after Paxton's failure, where Mason deducted that they need him desperately. He starts to mess around with Stanley, who is clearly out of his league in this room. Mason saw his opportunity and takes the offer, but demands the Fairmont Hotel treatment as a sign of a goodwill from Uncle Sam, which Stanley approves. Immediately, Womack tore apart a jail-free card for Mason, obviously not interested in letting Mason out of jail. At Fairmont Hotel, FBI agents are guarding Mason. He gets a haircut, but he uses Womack to buy himself some time, and he throws him from the balcony where Stanley and other agents are trying to save their boss, and meanwhile Mason is on the loose. After a car chase and wrecking a couple of blocks in San Francisco like Mike Lowry from Bad Boys, Mason is met with his daughter Jade at the Palace of the Fine Arts. Stanley followed him and called for a backup. Mason is stunned by the appearance and the intelligence of his daughter, which he has never seen in his life. Willing to spend some more quality time with her, Mason asks Jade just for a chance to meet her, which she allows, but then the police get him again into the custody. Somewhere else, at the FBI Mobile Center, Stanley is introduced to the fact that he is also joining the soldiers in the invasion of Alcatraz, and he reluctantly agrees. After taking off with the choppers towards Alcatraz, every single SEAL soldier, Stanley and Mason, are given atropine to inject into their heart in a case of contamination with VX. After reaching the cistern room in the inner area of Alcatraz, they are forced with the first obstacle, a thick, locked iron door, which Mason resolves without problems. Hummel and his mercenaries detect the invasion and prepare for their arrival. Later, when a motion sensor from the shower room gets engaged, mercenaries set up the trap for their guests. Hummel offers them to surrender to save their lives, which they refuse due to their training and orders. Mercenaries execute them all. Then Hummel curses the government for sending the SEAL team to a prison, forcing their death. Witnessing all of this, Mason wants out, but Stanley comes clean about the situation, introducing Mason to the chemical catastrophe in San Francisco in a case they give up on a mission. Knowing that his daughter is in town, he realized that although he has been played and tricked by Womack and Stanley, he must try to stop a terrorist attack. Stanley proposes that Mason deal with the mercenaries, and he will finish the technical part of disabling the missiles, which are arranged all around the rock, and the closest location is Morgue. Demonstrating all the splendor of his Mortal Kombat skills, Mason effectively neutralized the entire team of Hamill's mercenaries, allowing Stanley to remove the guidance system chip from the missile. When a team from the morgue does not reply Hamill's call, he sends another team to take the Mason and Stanley down. Although that this is a child playground for Mason, on the other side are not kids, but highly trained US Marines, and after eliminating 4 of them, Mason is overpowered. After all, he is a 60 years old convict with the last 30 years in a prison. Then Stanley gets out of his comfort zone and executed the Marine that almost got Mason dead. Mason is at the same time impressed and surprised, which is not easy to accomplish regarding his life experience. But still, he gratitudes Stanley. In a following scene, Hamill threatens that he will start executing the hostages unless they surrender. Mason sends Stanley to defuse the remaining missiles, while he will surrender to stall Hamill. Defusing the penultimate missiles, Marines get Stanley surrounded and captured, while Mason introduced himself to Hamill. At Pentagon, they are considering sending fire jets armed with plasma thermite missiles as a backup plan, considering that they have had no info from Mason and Stanley for more than 8 hours. Aware of this and not satisfied with the situation development, Hamills and his mercenaries are starting to make a pressure on him to launch the missiles. Pentagon is trying to buy 1 more hour, but Hamill and mercenaries are not buying that. So Hamill launched the missiles toward Oakland Stadium during the football game. What the beep? In the last second before impact, Hamill changed coordinates and directed the missiles to the open sea. Once again, Mason pulls up the trick from a sleeve and opens cell gate. Happy with the outcome of launch penultimate missile, Mason and Stanley are heading to defuse the last one before Pentagon turned this rock into well-done filet mignon steak. In these scenes, it's obvious the personality of General Hamill. He is US Marine, he is not a murderer, and he is not willing to become that one to accomplish his mission, despite the disagreements of his mercenaries, who are there for business purposes only. Mercenaries Daryl, Crisp, and Fry confront Hamill and his Major Baxter, demanding to launch the last missile, but Hamill refuses that and orders them to evacuate from island, while he will stay to take full consequences of his acts. At that moment, mercenaries start to fire and carnage begun. Hamill and Baxter are dead. Only Captain Fry is alive, and he went to manually launch the last missile. Getting there, he finds Stanley, who is defusing the missile. He drops one of the VX cells, but eventually he catches her. Meanwhile, Mason is busy neutralizing the remaining Marines on the island, while the US Force cavalries approach to the target. Stanley is overpowered. After all, he is a chemical expert, not Mortal Kombat. But he got a superb idea. The cell of VX that he had caught, he throws into the Captain Fry mouth. In doing that, he disabled and killed Captain Fry and injected atropine into his heart to annihilate the VX effect. What the beep? Who could expect something like that from Stanley? Then he launched green flares as a sign that the mission is successful. Seeing this, Pentagon is trying to abort the Air Force attack, but one of the pilots shoots before he is heard about aborting the mission. Carla is crying, worried for Stanley's life, who is being thrown away in the water from detonation. In a following scene, Mason jumps into the water and pulls out Stanley. While Carla is in tears, Pentagon is trying to establish communication with Stanley, and when he responds, Carla is delighted with it, so is the rest of the command crew. Womack asks Stanley for the Mason, but Stanley answers that he is dead. With a huge relief on his face, Mason thanked Stanley. Before farewell, Mason reveals the location of the microfilm that he has stolen years ago, and because of this, He is being imprisoned for 30 years without trial. In a final scene of the movie, Stanley is on his honeymoon with Carla, and after getting a microfilm, he asks her if she would like to know who killed JFK. Thanks for watching and peace out.